The Hollow Guest, The Beach House Intrusion. Two-part. True Horror. Narrative, based on real events, Part 1. The Hollow Guest, What Waited in the Shore House. There's a silence the ocean keeps just for itself, a hush you only hear when the night is empty enough to notice your heart. That's the silence I drove into last May, when my life felt paused, and the shore sounded like it was waiting for me. Welcome to Midnight Movie Recaps. Tonight, The Hollow Guest. I'd finished college a semester early. My job didn't start until June, and free time turned out to be a slow-motion punishment. I couldn't sit still in my own skin. So when Aunt Claire asked if I could check their Delaware Bay place, leaks, breakers, quick walk-through, I said yes before she finished the sentence. The sky over Route 1 was the color of old steel. Salt air hit miles from the water, and all the way down I kept thinking how houses breathe differently by the sea. Boards expand, paint lifts, metal sweats. Everything remembers the weather like a scar. I told myself any noise I heard that night would be the house remembering. The place looked magazine perfect in daylight, but under evening fog it felt ribbed, like you could see its bones. The motion light didn't trigger. I cupped my hands on the glass. Empty rooms, sheeted furniture, a clock stuck at 1:12. Inside, the air was boxed up and lemon sting clean. Someone had deep cleaned and then sealed time behind the door. I walked the list. Kitchen faucet, steady. Breaker, no trips. Side door, latched. Upstairs, every door stood open, except one. Hall left. White paint, old brass knob, turned slightly in, resting against the latch as if a hand had just let go. I pressed the wood with my palm. It held. Swollen frame, I told myself. Beach air. But when I leaned closer, the paint smelled faintly like fingers. Alone, I ate standing up like a guest who didn't belong. I texted Mom I'd stay the night. Too late to drive back. Master bedroom faced the dunes. The bed was the kind you fall into like a small cloud. The ocean replaced the clock. Breath in, breath out. I had almost drifted off when a sound rose through the floor. A slow, dry scrape. Not the sigh of wood, not a fridge compressor. A step. I sat up, listened. Another scrape, then wait, as if someone was testing boards one after another. Hello? I said, because people say that in houses when they're scared, as if the word is a leash. The ocean answered for the house. I slid out of bed, crossed to the door, pressed my ear to it. The scrape stopped. Then, 3 knocks. Slow, hollow. Not at my door. Above me, the locked room. I stood there until my calves ached. No follow-up knock, no footfall. The ocean like a blanket pulled over a face. Eventually, I lay back down, fully clothed, phone to chest. Flashlight open but dark. The blue square of it felt like a talisman. Sometime before dawn, exhaustion dragged me under. I woke to sun on my face and the sound of a kettle I didn't remember starting. Kitchen timer light blinked 12 Ras like it had been unplugged and plugged back in. Upstairs, the once stubborn door stood open. Inside was no guest room. It was a camp. A flattened sleeping bag on raw floor. Open tin of beans healed over with a spoon dried to rust color. A plastic bottle cut into a cup. A flip phone charging from an extension cord feeding an outlet that should have been sealed by the renovation. Someone had lived here. Recently. I backed into the hall without breathing. That's when I saw them. Wet footprints. Bare. Not large. Maybe women's size or a small man's. They trailed from the room, across the hall, into a square in the ceiling. The attic hatch, slightly ajar. I didn't check. I didn't even pretend bravery. I walked backwards down the stairs, grabbed my keys off the bowl near the door, and went outside to the car like the air indoors had gone thin. Aunt Claire answered on the second ring, European traffic noise in her background. I put it flat. Someone's been here. She went from cheerful to steel in one breath. Stay outside, I'm calling the local PD and the alarm company. They flagged motion twice last week and called it a glitch. Glitch? I repeated. I looked up at the attic line under the eaves and felt something squinting back. The police were there in 15. 2 officers, both with that late shift look like caffeine and doubt. They cleared the house fast, too fast. No one, no dust disturbed in the attic, they said. The wet prints had ghosted dry. Then Officer Shaw called me upstairs. In the attic, behind a panel that looked like insulation, they'd found a shallow crawl space. Inside, wrappers, a nesting of blankets, a tiny camera pointed down through a thumb-sized knothole toward the hallway, and a USB stick. Hand-labeled in thin, neat letters, guests. They bagged it. Told me to let them do their work. Told me to find a motel for the night. The Bay Motel off Route 9 smells like lemon ammonia and old soap opera reruns. My room's artwork was a boat painted without shadows. I double-latched the door and turned the TV up to bury the silence. I didn't sleep. Every time my eyes gritted closed, I saw the 3 slow knocks hammering on the ceiling. At 2:11 a.m., my phone vibrated on the nightstand. Unknown number, 1 message. You shouldn't have opened my door. Attached was a photo of the master bed, my body in it, curled on my side, taken through the window. I sat up so fast the room doubled, bile in my throat. I stared at my own sleeping shape like I didn't recognize me. Then I noticed something else in the photo. A shifted reflection in the glass. A face in the window's edge, close, pale, as if the glass itself had exhaled. I called 911 with a voice that didn't sound like mine. Detective Elena Rowe looked like she'd slept in her car and liked it that way. She slid a small recorder across the table. Before you talk, listen. It was me sleeping. The soft whistle I make when I'm on my side. Sheets shift, then a whisper. Not in the room, but inside the microphone, like lips on metal. We keep the guests. Rowe said they'd only skimmed the drive. Most files were time-stamped within the last 3 months. Whoever lived there documented everything. Doors opening, faucets, footsteps in that dry scrape rhythm, and often whispering. Human whispering, I said. Rowe didn't smile. That would be the good news. She laid out copies of blueprints from the county records. The house had been renovated 3 times since the 50s. After a hurricane, someone poured a sub-foundation beneath the original. There was space under the floor that wasn't on any permit. Like a crawl space? I asked. Bigger, she said. More like a shallow cellar with water access. She sipped coffee. You said wet footprints. I nodded. Any family folklore? Prohibition tunnels? Storm shelters? None, I said. Aunt Claire bought from a retiring couple. They said the house listened well. I thought it was cute. Rowe didn't. We went back after dark because Rowe said most things that want to be found wait for night. 2 uniforms cleared the house again. I stood on the deck with Rowe, the dunes like sleeping animals. She shone her light along the foundation where the dune grass thinned. Sand migrates, houses settle. Sometimes they settle on top of mistakes. At the north corner, half hidden by reeds, she found a rusted iron ring set into a concrete pad. She knelt, brushed sand away with her hands, and revealed a hatch, low, square, poured into the 1950s foundation. It took both officers and a crowbar to lift it. The smell rose first, mineral, old tide pool, not rot, but something like it. A short ladder dropped into shadow. Rowe looked at me. You don't have to come down. I'm not staying up here alone, I said. We descended. My light skittered across water, shining black a few inches below a concrete lip. The chamber was larger than a crawl space, maybe 15 by 12, low ceiling beamed by old wood, pilings driven into sand. At the far wall, a rectangle had been cut through to open water, the bay itself, and on the dry lip of concrete around the ladder, chalky white markings and a powder that glittered like crushed shell. Rings, spirals, childish little suns. On the wall near the waterline, drawings done in charcoal and shell. A boxy house with big square windows and stick figures inside. Above the sketch, a careful hand had labeled it in cramped letters, home. Rowe swept her light to a corner, 3 bedrolls, a plastic tub of neatly folded clothes, a small tin with coins and sea glass, and a battery radio tuned to static. "Not just one person," Rose said. "Nobody camps this tidy alone." Something moved in the water tunnel, just a slip of motion, like a seal rolling in the dark. Our lights found nothing but bubbles. Rose said we were done for the night. Evidence team at first light. On the ladder up, I heard the scrape, slow, one board at a time above us. We froze. The noise crossed the kitchen, paused above the hatch, then creaked onward, toward the stairs. "Uniforms are upstairs," Ro whispered. She keyed her shoulder mic. Static. No response. The scrape climbed. Second step. Third. Then stopped. Ro's jaw set. "We go together." We went up into a kitchen empty except for a chair that hadn't been there before, set carefully in the middle of the floor, facing the hatch. On the seat lay the USB drive we'd left at the precinct. Ro lifted it with gloved fingers, looked at me. "Don't say coincidence." I didn't. I listened. And in the wall, faint as a memory, something whispered as if speaking through a shell. "We keep the guests." Part 2 begins where the tide turns. What's in the files, what the cellar was built to hide, and why the house kept listening. If this kept your lights on, like, subscribe, and share to keep midnight movie recaps alive. Sleep carefully. The ocean never sleeps. Part 2. The Hollow Guest. The footsteps beneath the floor. Previously on The Hollow Guest, a locked room, wet footprints, a hidden hatch to the bay, and a whisper that didn't need lungs to speak. We keep the guests. Ro brought the drive to digital forensics. I sat in a rolling chair that squeaked like it was embarrassed. The tech, Harrow, mirrored the files to a closed system and opened the first folder. Dates, all recent. Clip 01, hallway from above, night. My silhouette passes to the bathroom. A thin arm, pale, vein bright, reaches through a vent and tilts the lens for a better angle. Clip 07, audio only, I'm asleep. Slow bed rustle, then something else, wet fabric being wrung. After a minute, a whisper shaped like a smile. "Shh, he's listening." Clip 12, day. The attic hatch open a crack. A child's hand, small, too small to be adult, slides a bottle of water toward the opening. Another hand, larger, takes it. Clip 19, the master window. The camera is outside. The glass reflects a shape like mine sleeping. The audio catches a back-of-throat hum, contented, low, not quite human. Ro paused on that hum. "You hear it? It's happy. Or fed," she said. Clip 24, the cellar, water like night oil. The battery radio tuned to a local talk station for 20 seconds, then back to static by an unseen turn of the dial. In the glass of the water tunnel, faces swim where there should be none, like the reflection learns new angles on its own. Harrow scrubbed to the last clip, time-stamped the night before, a chair placed in a kitchen with the USB on it. The video vantage was the ceiling corner. The chair moves into frame as if pushed by nothing. A hard stop. Then a hand we hadn't seen yet. Thin, blistered knuckles, nails full of gray sand. It set the drive like a gift and retreated out of frame with calm, deliberate ownership. Ro leaned back. "If this is a person, it's 3 people. If it's 3 people, they're synchronized like a clock. If it's more than 3... She didn't finish. Ro sent me to records because I couldn't sit doing nothing. The county library smelled like paper that had learned to take a punch. I pulled 1950s newspapers with headlines about a storm that didn't have a name, only a date. One story stuck. A low-lying row of bay cottages took on water during a freak tide. A family of 5 didn't make it. Mother, father, 3 kids. The paragraph under the photo said they were seasonal help for a larger estate and that recovery crews couldn't reach the interior rooms before the sand shift. It mentioned an unpermitted storm cellar tied directly to the bay through a culvert. The surname was the same as the old couple who'd sold Aunt Claire the house. Back then, they were newlyweds. They'd inherited from the previous owner, a builder who repurposed wartime concrete. I traced a line with my finger from the obituary to the property parcel number. Same plot, same foundation pour year. At the bottom of the article, A single sentence like an afterthought. Neighbors report hearing children at play for weeks after. I called Ro. She didn't pick up. By dusk, Ro still hadn't answered. I drove to the house, meaning to wait outside for the evidence team. Blue lights stuttered in the distance. 2 cruisers, doors open, engines idling. One was Ro's unmarked, driver's door shut, key still in. I didn't get out. I rolled the window down and listened. The house sounded wrong. The surf had gone quiet. No, not quiet. Muffled, like cotton stuffed in ears. The boards didn't creak, they waited. In the brief silence between my breath and fear, I heard a scrape. Slow. 1 plank at a time. Not inside the house, under it. Something moved the way barnacles must think. Slow, patient, inevitable. Uniforms came fast. 3 more cars. They formed a line across the yard with their lights cutting the fog into pink glass. They went inside with guns low. Minutes passed. One came out to wave me back. His mouth moved, but no sound touched me. I shut the window and the silence broke like a bubble. Suddenly the sirens, the radios, the surf, all crowding back. They found nothing but footprints in the kitchen. Too many to count, too messy to lift. And in the master bedroom, dust on the dresser, 5 letters traced with a finger like a kindergarten exercise. G-U-E-S-T-S. What about Detective Ro? I asked. She clocked off. A sergeant said, eyes not meeting mine. We'll find her. He didn't sound convinced. I went back the next afternoon with Harrow, who said off the record too many times for it to be true. We took 2 long-neck flashlights and a rope light we could lay along the lip. The cellar smelled like yesterday plus 1 new day gone wrong. The shell powder symbols looked disturbed, like someone had smudged them with a wet thumb. Harrow set the rope light and the chamber went carnival bright. We could see everything. The lock bolts, the water tunnel, the radio. The foam at the entrance pulsed like breath. He crouched near the drawings. These weren't done by kids, he said softly. Not first. Look at the line confidence. Then later, he pointed at wobbly overtracings. Smaller hands learned the shapes. Learned, I said. Practiced, he corrected. We both turned. The tin of coins now sat 2 inches left of where it had been. No splash, no scrape, just moved. Harrow whispered, okay. Not fear, not surrender, just the word you say when your world bends and doesn't snap. From the tunnel water, a cluster of air bubbles rose and popped, small as a child's laughter. Then that hum again, contented, low, closer. Back up, I said. We did. That's when the radio turned itself on. Mid-sentence voice, local AM caller line. The dial slid under no hand, station to station, before landing on unmodulated static shaped like whispering. The static resolved into words, backward at first, then frontways like a mouth-learning language. We keep the guests. Harrow lifted his light and aimed it into the tunnel. For 1 second, 1 perfect, shattering second, I saw faces under the water line. White, not bloated, not dead. Like coral that had decided to wear a human expression. Eyes open as if they had always been. Then gone. The surface smooth as glass, shocked still. Harrow said a word the AM stations would have bleeped. We climbed the ladder like it was the last ladder we'd ever be allowed. Aunt Claire's voice was 2 parts rage, 1 part terror. The alarm company had pushed another glitch at 3 a.m. She'd forwarded door cam thumbnails, the chair in the kitchen again. Only this time, not alone. In the far archway, barely there in motion blur, a woman's outline. Long hair, head tilted with impossible patience, and at her thigh height, 2 smaller shapes leaning into her shadow. Claire said she was coming home early. I told her not to. Whose house is it? She snapped in a way I'd never heard. Who pays those damn taxes? I won't be chased. I wanted to say, it doesn't care about taxes. I didn't. I said I'd meet her at the house in daylight with a locksmith and a priest if she wanted. The joke scraped my throat raw on the way out. I bought 2 red cans at a hardware store that used to be a bait shop. Ironic in a way that felt pre-forgiven. At sunset, the dune grass cut the light into green blades. I walked the perimeter with a slow, funeral patience, looking for the hatch, the ring, any sign we could seal and salt. The ring was there, the hatch too, but something new had been added in the sand around it. Little mounds like small hands had pressed both palms, lifted, pressed again, circling the hatch in a ring of prints. I unscrewed the can. The smell of gas married the salt and made a nauseous child. I poured a hard line along the foundation, across the deck, down the steps. And then every window in the house opened, one by one, polite as dinner service. Curtains breathed out. The house inhaled. From the master window, something leaned, just enough you'd think you imagined it. A pale oval, hair like wet rope. It didn't look at me. It looked at the line of fuel like it was deciding if it would allow it to exist. I lowered the can. The fuel glugged into itself. I said, "What do you want?" The answer came from the cellar hatch below my feet and from the vents, and from the ice maker that hadn't made ice in a year, and from the tiny spaces in my molars where cold air lives. We keep the guests, not angry, pleased, like a host receiving RSVPs. I don't know why I went down. Some people run, some bargain, some do the stupid thing because the stupid thing feels like a sentence you have to finish. The rope light still lay along the lip, the water waited, and beyond the tunnel I could hear the bay talking, in a voice it only uses below houses. I aimed my phone light at the surface and spoke into the recorder because people who vanish always leave recordings. "My name is Daniel Hart. If you find this, don't sell this house. Don't bless it, don't study it, bury it." Something rose under the water, slow as forgiveness. Not a face, not first. A reflection that wasn't mine. Then 3, then 5. They didn't break the surface. They didn't need to. They were already inside everything that touched the water. The wood, the concrete, the little spaces between sand grains. Behind me, footsteps, dry, deliberate. I didn't turn. The recording caught my breath stutter once, twice. I said, "I'm sorry for opening your door." The women's whisper came from nowhere and everywhere. "We keep the guests," and I finally understood. It wasn't a threat, it was their purpose, their joy, their tide. Detective Rowe's car was found 2 towns up, sand inside like someone had brought home a beach in her shoes. Aunt Claire sold the house back to the same alarm company that called everything a glitch. It sits under renovation, which is a way to say we keep the guests in a language banks understand. Sometimes I hear the scrape of steps on nights I'm nowhere near water. Wood is wood, houses are houses, but some foundations remember the storm. If you ever rent a beach house and the silence feels practiced, don't learn its rhythm. This was The Hollow Guest. You're watching Midnight Movie Recaps. Like, share, and subscribe before the tide turns.